Welcome back to Something Witchy, a Sabrina the Teenage Witch rewatch podcast. I'm Laura Cotter.
And I'm Skye Orchard.
And the spring break / season 1 break continues for just a little bit longer. Today we are going to be recapping the TV movie that kicked it all off, the original Sabrina the Teenage Witch movie. This premiered in 1996 before the TV show started, so I thought it'd be fun to compare and contrast, see where the differences were, what things they kept, and just kind of see what kicked it off to begin with. Have you ever seen this movie, Skye?
No, this was my first time watching this as well.
So like I said, this is the Sabrina the Teenage Witch TV movie called Sabrina the Teenage Witch. The tagline for this movie is magic powers, great clothes, dreamy guys. What more could a girl want for her 16th birthday? Fair enough. It originally aired on April 7th, 1996. It was directed by Tibor Takacs. He has directed a bunch of Christmas movies, The Outer Limits, and he also directed another movie that we're going to watch later on in the series called Sabrina Goes to Rome. We have 3 writers. All 3 of these also wrote on the third Sabrina movie called Sabrina Down Under. It's Barney Cohen, who also wrote for Guernica and the Forever Knight TV series. Catherine Wallach, who also wrote for Sabrina Goes to Rome and some other Sabrina TV episodes, and Nicholas Factor, who also writes for Sabrina Goes to Rome. So it sounds like we've got a little group of people who are going to keep coming back for these TV movies. We have quite a list of stars. I'm going to try and go through it pretty quickly. So we have Melissa Joan Hart as Sabrina Spellman, obviously. Before this, she was most well known for Clarissa Explains It All, that aired from 1991 to 1994. We have Sherry Miller as Aunt Hilda from things like Queer as Folk, Ginny and Georgia, Hot Frosty, which I haven't watched yet, but I still want to watch that, and Schitt's Creek. Charlene Furnett is Aunt Zelda, and this is Gail from the episode of Dad's Girlfriend. Michelle Boudouin is Marnie Littlefield here instead of Jenny, and I may switch up accidentally and call her Jenny at some point, but I did try to be very purposeful about writing Marnie.
Oh, my notes, I almost wrote Jenny so many times.
Same. I had a hard time with the names in this one. Ryan Reynolds is Seth. I'm not listing his acting credits because it's Ryan Reynolds, and I feel like everybody should know who that is. Tobias Miller is Harvey from Battlestar Galactica, The Outer Limits, the Carrie TV movie, and then something called Wishmaster 3, Beyond the Gates of Hell, and he plays Archangel Michael.
Interesting.
I don't know what that is, but okay. Lelania Lindbergh is Katy Lamore. She's from the Dragon Ball Z franchise, a bunch of Barbie movies, and she's also in the Sabrina animated series. Laura Harris is Freddie. She's from 24, Dead Like Me, Defying Gravity, and The Halfback of Notre Dame, which I highly encourage you to read that movie description. It's so cheesy. It's about a boy who has to play on the Notre Dame football team and he doesn't want to. And then he captures the eye of the Esmeralda cheerleader.
Interesting. That might have to go onto a movie list.
Yeah, I might have to. We have Joe Bates as the coach from Psych, The X-Files, and The Outer Limits. There's a lot of Outer Limits people in this. Janine Cox is the sales clerk from The L Word and The X-Files. Bisky Gugashi as Larry from Saving Silverman, Battlestar Galactica, Psych, and Smallville. Tyler Levine as Mark. He is a comedian, was also in Monsters University, Rise of the Planet of the Apes, and It's Always Sunny in Philadelphia. Jim Swansburg as Mr. Dingle from Trailer Park Boys, something called the G-Spot, where he plays an optometrist, but on IMDb, they misspelled the word optometrist. They put an E, I think, instead of the second O. Or they put an O instead of the E, the first E. I don't know. It was one of the two. He's also from The Outer Limits. We have Noel Gear as Jeff, and the only other things he was in were It, Generation X, and Border Town. Then we have a credit for Volton. That's his full name, is Volton, as the DJ. And I can find no other information about this Volton, DJ or otherwise. Don't know who this man is. And then I had to dig a little bit because they didn't credit Brian Steele as being the voice of Salem in this.
Weird.
Yeah. That's our long list of actors. I did have a trivia thing for you. Melissa Joan Hart was 19 years old when they filmed this movie, which is the only time she's actually a real teenager while playing teenage Sabrina Spellman throughout the franchise.
That's a fun little trivia.
What were your overall thoughts, Skye?
I've definitely seen worse movie kickoffs to a TV series.
What comes to mind?
Buffy the Vampire Slayer.
Buffy had a movie kickoff?
Yeah, a couple years before, and honestly, it was surprising that a network finally decided to pick it up and basically change everything about the movie in order to make the TV series there. It made me wonder because, Buffy There was a movie that was very not quite successful. It's sort of cult classic-y, I guess, now. And then it took a while for a series to want to actually pick it up. This is coming out in April, and then the TV series debuts in September. So was this filmed a couple of years in advance and is just barely releasing in April, or did they film it knowing that most likely there would be a TV series happening almost immediately after? Because that's like a, 6-month gap, maybe?
Given that Melissa was 19 when they were filming it, they had to be filming it within 1995.
Okay.
So it couldn't have been filmed much earlier than that.
So I wonder when the series was greenlit while they were also filming this. Or
I'm sure they had some sort of like, special release or early clips of it or something like that they shopped around to the network that they used as the basis before the whole movie was done. However, I'm pretty sure that this was a Lifetime movie. Oh, Showtime. It was a Showtime movie, which I think means it debuted on cable. So I didn't actually see this movie until like a few years ago. It was the very first time I ever saw it.
Didn't Melissa Joan Hart's parents have like a role in helping produce all of this, or am I making that up?
Her mom, Paula Hart, is the one who like bought the rights to the Sabrina character from the Archie comics. And she got them for like a steal. And then they created this show, and her mom's like an executive producer on all of that stuff.
Okay, so that could also explain some of the streamline of we'll do a movie first, but almost immediately after release this TV series as well.
Yeah, it was a cable TV movie, but we will get into it. Our first scene, we have a very long, like, scanning across her bedroom at all of the stuff in her room. There's a very, very early laptop, like, on a desk. And similar to how the TV show first starts, we see Sabrina floating above her bed while she sleeps. Like the TV show, the ants come upstairs, they lower her back down and fight about telling her. And this is where we see like the first kind of changes. Like the Zelda Hilda personalities are kind of swapped, where Zelda is the one who's like, can't we just tell her? Can't we just tell her? And Hilda's the one who's like, no, we can't. They actually use a rhyming spell rather than, I feel like her ants in the TV series really just usually point and things happen. Sometimes there's rhyming spells, sometimes there's not. I did enjoy like the fun music in this first scene, like kind of almost carnival-y-ish. We also learn that Sabrina can't find out about her powers before the full moon after her 16th birthday, and that there's also a witches' council in this world that would hold her accountable for those rules.
I liked the rhyming as well. It seems a lot more structured than the cheerleader is not a pineapple. A fruit.
The popular girl is not a fruit.
Exactly. Also, the initial scan through of her room, like it legitimately looks like, I mean, it's a top floor room, maybe converted attic based on what characters say, but they just left it, at least half of it, as that attic. As you're looking through what they're scanning, and then there's not even like a room divider, and then it's just suddenly Sabrina's bed, which is interesting way to have your room look after living there at least 3 months.
There was so much stuff in the backgrounds, especially at the aunt's house. There's just knickknacks and things everywhere, which was one thing I noticed. It felt messier. Like the TV series feels cleaner, even though there's also a lot of like knick-knacky stuff. Like this was just wild amounts of stuff.
Yeah, if we have it, we're gonna throw it on the set.
Did you notice the like scan across of like all the porcelain dolls too, kind of like sitting in a circle?
Oh, I have a note in full caps later on because I did not notice in that initial scan through.
Yeah,
but there's a moment where I definitely notice.
Okay, we'll get to that. So the next morning at breakfast, Sabrina tells the aunt she thinks her bed moved while she was asleep. They try to blame it on an earthquake, but Sabrina says Salem would have warned them since cats are psychic. She swears she can hear Salem's thoughts sometimes. Sabrina tells them about a dream she had where she was flying above the town before leaving for school. This is where we also learn that they live in Riverdale in this version, and there's a radio as we're coming down the stairs, and it says they're listening to WITC, which I thought was a cute little insert.
That is cute. They are also drinking their breakfast juice all out of goblets, and so I've decided I need to drink my juice in goblets more.
Sabrina meets up with Marnie, not Jenny, although it looks like Jenny, outside school and asks if there's something different about her. They talk to Harvey in the hall, who tells Sabrina that she seems different. Marnie pushes him into his locker. A couple walks by making out and stops to make fun of Harvey and get some homework that he completed for Seth. And then Sabrina finds flowers in her locker. Just FYI, I'm doing a very general description of these scenes because otherwise we'd be here for like 4 hours. So I'm going through these scenes very quickly and then letting us talk about them. My one note from this is when Marnie sees Sabrina, she says, "Mondo styling boots, man."
And the word mondo in slang generally means very, extremely, or huge. It's often used as an intensifier, similar to saying something is super or ultra. And the word came from the Italian word mondo, meaning world. And its use in slang is linked most likely to the 1961 film Mondo, pronounced Italian there, Cane or something, meaning dog's world, which depicted strange human behavior in that movie.
So wait, a movie called Dog's World talked about strange human behavior?
Yep, and that somehow became an intensifier to mean basically cool.
All right. Sure.
Another change in character's depiction there is Harvey does his homework. He's a nerd.
Yeah, Harvey's a nerd. Like, he's not athletic. He's nerdy.
He has sweater vests.
Mm-hmm.
I also think that Harvard is a great nickname for a nerdy Harvey there. Very witty.
I don't like Harvey in this movie as much. We can talk about it more, but it's definitely one of those 90s nice guy tropes that set a lot of young men up for failure, I think, because they think that this is how the world works now. So I don't particularly love Harvey in this. I much prefer our TV Harvey. Sabrina is playing volleyball in PE while her and Marnie watch Seth run around the track. He tosses an errant volleyball to them, and Sabrina and Marnie get tangled in the net trying to catch it. Seth then looks in a classroom window, not creepy at all, where Katy's in class, and she admits she's going to dump him to her friends. Seth sees Harvey with a bunch of party stuff in his locker, and Harvey tells him about a party for Sabrina. Seth tells Harvey he and Katy broke up, and Harvey is upset by this because Seth seems to be interested in Sabrina. Sabrina and Marnie are riding bikes after school. She sees her reflection in a storeroom window, and it looks like she's riding a broom. And Mr. Dingle, which is just the worst name. My sister has quails that live in her front yard, and we call them the Dingles. He can also see the reflection, and this is the first time he gets a glimpse of her magic, and I'm worried about this man's mental health.
Oh yeah, he probably thinks he has schizophrenia or something.
Sabrina and Marnie discuss if magic exists while they're walking home. Marnie says no. No one is home at Sabrina's house, and she thinks that they've forgotten her birthday, but it's really a surprise party.
So as Sabrina and Marnie are walking in through the kitchen, it looks like the kitchen wallpaper, quote unquote, backsplash is just a giant like whiteboard calendar, because it extends around at least one corner. It's little squares. It looks like they have numbers on them, and some of them like have some writing on them. But then you get to the oven fridge area and it's brick. Weird little set decoration moment.
Or is it just a weird wallpaper pattern? Like calendar wallpaper pattern?
One's practical, one just confuses you.
Because like 1996 or 1995 when this was being filmed, like whiteboards still weren't that commonplace.
But if you're a witch...
I mean, I guess, yeah, sure. I don't know if I'd want a giant whiteboard in my kitchen calendar. I would bump up against it and erase things. It looks like the whole school is there in party hats, and Harvey organized the whole thing.
Oh, and Zelda is seen dancing with a high school student several times. I hope he's over 18.
Yeah. Also, Marnie's overly excited to see food. Like, oh my gosh, food. And I was like, did you not eat at home? Did you not eat today, girl? Are you okay? Why are you so excited to see food at a party?
Well, in Riverdale parties, you go all out with the food.
I have not watched Riverdale. I refuse.
Oh, I just completely made it up. I was just trying to figure out. Like, you normally only get a drink, and you're really fancy if you get some food.
Seth and his friends show up, and Marnie is freaking out because he's a man.
Oh, real life human man.
Sabrina chats with Seth while Harvey looks on sadly. Zelda brings out Pin the Tail on the donkey, and some kids start to make fun of her before Harvey and Seth step in to save the day and be like, we should play that.
It's so cool.
One of Katy's friends is creepily spying on the party through the window and calls Katy on her very old cell phone to tell her that Seth is there. Katy is mad and shows up in this bizarre scene that Sabrina is taking her turn at Pin the Tail on the donkey and mocks Sabrina while she has her blindfold on.
And Sabrina like keeps extending the tail towards her chest, and I was convinced it was gonna be a bit that Katy was stabbed in the boobs by Sabrina before Sabrina knew who it was. Really kick off that rivalry there.
I kept waiting for that to happen, but also I was like, why is no one stepping in? Why is everybody watching this very awkward scene?
They wanted to see a stabbing.
I know Marnie is Sabrina's closest friend. Harvey's also kind of her friend. But like, Harvey, if you wanted to actually step in and make Sabrina notice you, stepping in and preventing that Katy nonsense would have been the time to do it. Like, no one stopped this. It was so bizarre. Anyway, so Sabrina takes off the blindfold, sees Katy, Seth introduces them to each other, and everyone watches while Katy is still a complete jerk to her. The aunts bring out the cake and Sabrina blows out the candles, making a wish, while watching Katy very intensely, who suddenly starts itching and then catches her party hat on fire. Harvey dumps punch on her to put it out. Katy then thanks him and kisses his cheek to make Seth jealous. And then she leaves with her friends. Like, the aunts didn't do anything. The aunts were like, hey, girl, you're being a real B-word. Maybe you should get out of our house. Like, if anybody did that on my 16th birthday party, my mom would have kicked their butt.
Oh, yeah. Those children would be still scarred to this day.
Oh, 100%. I'm glad I have better parental figures. So the party's over, the aunts are cleaning up and eating cake, and they hint at a special present for Sabrina that hasn't arrived yet. And this is where we learn that her parents are in Sri Lanka and then going to Venice, so they weren't able to talk to her on her 16th birthday.
And they're also on sabbatical. What do you think they teach?
Well, I mean, if we want to be lazy, we could say that her mom is like an archaeology professor.
Valid.
And her dad, I don't know, the history? Literature.
Dad's caught up in his books, so he'll become a book soon.
He'll become a book.
I mean, he's basically that book, right? He lives in it.
Sabrina is in her room kind of playing with Salem, mostly just like lazily flipping a ribbon around or a little string around. She spies Zelda putting something in the desk in the hallway. It's a present that says it's only to be opened under the full moon. So of course she opens it immediately. And it's blank because she didn't follow the one very simple instruction on the front of it. She quickly puts it back when she hears someone coming. Then when she goes to get it again, it's disappeared.
I like this non-bedazzled magic book. It looks a lot more serious.
Yeah, it looks older. It looks like it's been passed down through some generations.
The inside also looks more legit in a way than the pages you see in this TV series.
My one thought is that it looked too, like, it wasn't a thin book by any means, but it did look too thin. It looked about half the size of the TV series Magic book, and I feel like it needed to be thicker. But yeah, there were no crazy, stupid fake jewels on it. At lunch the next day, Sabrina thanks Harvey for her flowers and calls him a real pal. And then Sarah's like, oh, Sabrina. She watches Seth and ignores Harvey when he points out that Seth is a senior and she's a sophomore. Seth and his friends walk by and acknowledge Marnie and Sabrina. They freak out.
Okay, guess what I obsessed with? Or I talked about it once. But some of the students at lunch, you'll see this a couple different times, are drinking juice out of glass goblet type glasses as well. Like frequently, but then they also have like just the traditional glass bottles of juice or sugary liquid, but there are several goblets of juice in this movie.
What is this world?
I don't
know.
know.
Town? Everybody behaves so weirdly. Also, would you trust high schoolers in a cafeteria with glass anything?
No.
No. Maybe they have a really big school budget for glassware.
They have some sort of deal.
They had a donor, a rich alumni, but he said you can only use this money for glassware.
The juice must be from a glass.
But only for some of the kids.
Yeah.
For some reason, they're throwing javelins at PE, which is, again, another thing I would not trust high school students with. And Katy is obviously the best at it.
I don't know if it's PE. It might actually just be the formal track and field tryouts because there's a large banner behind saying that's the track tryouts.
Why would everybody be required to try out?
Sports.
Sabrina and Marnie were required to try out. That's so weird.
I mean, it sort of sounds like they wanted to be on it. The track team seems to be the football, basketball equivalent for Riverdale there.
Not to like be mean to any track and field people. Like, you guys shine when it comes time for Summer Olympics. Is that really the sexy sport for a lot of high schools? Not swimming, tennis.
I mean, I guess it depends on where you're at. I'm assuming we're still in New England area.
Yeah, so it should be like lacrosse. Lacrosse is like the fancy girl thing.
I feel like javelins are fancy, though. We didn't get them in track and field in Idaho. I did discus instead, but if I had a chance or an opportunity to be throwing javelins around.
I guess this is my thing, because we're painting Katy as this like ultra princess rich girl. When I think ultra princess, I don't think a girl who hurls a pointed object through the air. Like, that just doesn't seem very soft princessy. Like, that's why I was thinking like more tennis.
Yeah, I think she's more hard princessy because she's very athletic, clearly, and just dominates in athletics as one of her ways, being rich as well, obviously, to have control. I have a quick little fun javelin fact.
Let's do it. That's the cousin of sword facts. It's javelin facts with Skye.
Basically. So in ancient Greek Olympics, it used to actually be two separate events, one for accuracy and then one for distance. Today in modern Olympics, it is just distance throwing.
Oh, so that you'd throw the javelin in two separate types of events?
Yeah, so you could have a competition scene if you could kill the target, and then one of can you throw super far.
So the coach or PE teacher or whatever, whoever this adult is, makes everybody try to throw the javelin. Sabrina throws hers, and we hear a twinkling noise as the javelin sails way past the school. But no one was watching, and no one notices this. She throws another one, and this time people are watching, and it just barely beats Katy's distance. Seth runs past with his 90s hair flopping in the wind. Sabrina's on the team. Katy is inviting everyone to a pool party at her house for the track team, which now includes Sabrina. And for some reason, Marnie, even though Marnie specifically says she didn't make the team. But anyway, Marnie's freaking out because it's the social event of the year next to the spring fling dance. We get a shopping montage. Sabrina and Marnie, said Jenny, pick out outfits for the party. Sabrina picks out a bikini, but it's $75. She wishes it was less, and then it rings up for $15. And there's just a lot of outfits in this montage. We get a bandana and bikini combo. We get a pleather skirt. It's a lot of 90s, but I do like the black bikini that she settles for.
It was a very long montage. I think it could have been shorter.
There's like 3 montages in this movie. The aunts drop off Sabrina and Marnie at the party, and then also send Salem to spy on them. Sabrina and Marnie make fun of the party until some hot butlers serve them hors d'oeuvres, which I was like, sure. High school party. We have some grown adult men who like they came from Thunder from Down Under, wearing aprons and like unitards, serving hors d'oeuvres to high school kids. Sure. Katy does her mean girl thing, and we find out Sabrina was a silver medalist diver at her last school, which would make swimming a more obvious choice. But whatever. I guess Sabrina's just good at everything. We have Salem slinking around, and then so is Harvey, who's not creepy at all as he's looking through the bushes at Sabrina.
So many creepy moments for Harvey in this movie.
I was like done with Harvey. I was like, you know what? I hope she stays with Ryan Reynolds. It was so bad. He then like comes out of the bushes and dumps a glass of water on his head to try and look like he was there and make it look like he blends in. But then Katy immediately spots him and was like, why are you here? You weren't invited. You're not on the team. But she lets him stay anyway and hints at a surprise later, which we all can tell is going to be terrible for Sabrina. And then there's Salem running around and no one notices.
They do give Salem a quick little moment where he pauses to make fun of the poodle's haircut, which I enjoyed. Poodle was very offended.
Yeah, there's just a poodle and a cat running around. Okay. Katy sprays wax on the diving board to make Sabrina slip. And then I was like, and possibly die? Like, if she slips on the board and she falls off of it and she hits her head on the board and then she cracks her head open and then she's unconscious and then she falls in the water and she's unconscious in the water and then she drowns. Like, this is an extreme prank. You don't prank with diving boards, people. Don't do it.
Yes, because studies indicate that approximately 13,000 diving board related injuries babies are treated in ERs each year.
Because it's bad. So Katy, the potential homicidal maniac, gets Sabrina for the diving contest. Salem, again, is still just running around the party. And Katy says this line that says, I'm just going to make sure there's nothing to be jealous about because she'll be dead. And who could be jealous of a dead girl? Everyone starts chanting for Sabrina. She slips and luckily just falls on her butt because Katy put the wax so close to like where the stairs were rather than putting it on the end. So I guess maybe that's less likely to kill her. I don't know. So then instead, she does a cartwheel over the board, somehow missing the waxy space because you know what's safer than just walking, cartwheeling. And then she does a little flip, twisting jump off the diving board and everyone cheers. And then Katy says, no, Mr. Nice Guy. And I'm like, that was Mr. Nice Guy. That was a murder attempt. Okay, so are you going to just shoot her next? Go straight for the gun? Like, I don't know. Marnie knows this and warns Sabrina about going against Katy. Somehow Katy knows this conversation is happening, and there just happens to be an intercom that's turned on in the room where Sabrina is changing, and she puts the microphone up to the intercom so everyone can hear them talking about Seth and how hot he is.
Say he even makes Brad Pitt look like a nerd. And we have a Sabrina, Marnie, Jenny, whatnot Brad Pitt reference once again, just like the pilot.
Do you think Ryan Reynolds has said this line to Brad Pitt?
I'd love for that to be the case.
They come out of the changing room and everyone's laughing at Sabrina, except for Seth and Harvey. Again, no one is stepping in. Not even Seth, who's like, hey, Katy, you broke up with me. You're being a real a-hole. No one is a good friend, basically. Marnie is the only good friend, sort of. Sabrina comes home to her aunts, who are dressed in an evening gown and a pirate outfit.
Yeah, and Hilda's pirate outfit is either very piratey or she just needs a peace necklace and colored sunglasses for the hippie look. However, she's wearing a necklace that looks just like a straight sardine hanging from a chain. So, who knows?
These outfits had me so befuddled throughout this movie. I'm glad the costume and wardrobe department had fun with them, but like, what was the theme here?
Great question. It's also so confusing that Hilda is Zelda and Zelda is Hilda in this movie.
They rarely say each other's names, which I'm like, no, you say it more than you would in like a normal conversation because you need to remind people whose people's names are. Say it more often. Like, I think it was here where I was finally like, no, actually, I do have their names right. Because at first I thought I had them switched. Sabrina says she can never go back to school. Hilda whispers a spell to cheer Sabrina up as she's crying in her bedroom. And then her wardrobe door opens to a glowing light. We have a magical wardrobe appearing again. Not again, but I mean just like we see in other magical genres. She walks through her magical wardrobe and appears in a white dress with white flowers in her hair. She finds a bed with a package on it, the one she saw last night. This time she actually opens it under the full moon, and the aunts appear in white dresses with a broom. They explain that she's a witch. Zelda just giggles like an idiot. Suddenly, the javelin she threw earlier appears and sticks in the ground in front of her. They're in a magical realm where she can receive her book. Salem now appears and he starts to talk. Sabrina doesn't believe it and thinks it's just a dream. Flash to the next morning and she wakes up still thinking it was a dream.
And this is where I see those creepy dolls, because right behind her head is a bench with just a line of them, and they belong either on that haunted doll island or in the haunted doll museum, but certainly not in a child's bedroom. Ugh.
Maybe they're the souls of people that Hilda and Zelda have cursed. Salem talks again at breakfast, though, making her realize it's not a dream. The aunts assure her that it's real. Both of her parents are witches, again, a difference from the TV series, but she had to be delivered to her trainers, who are her aunts, for her 16th birthday. Apparently, in both series, the witches like pulling teenage witches away from their parents. Hilda then turns Salem into a rat to demonstrate her magic, then back into a cat. And apparently Hilda made Susan Lucci lose the Emmy 15 years in a row because she hates all my children.
Which Susan finally won the Emmy in 1999, and then actually just recently got a Lifetime Achievement Award in 2023.
What she deserves. I remember watching the Emmys during those years and being like, this year's going to be the year. And it was never the year.
Thanks, Hilda.
Salem is a familiar who helps do the aunt's bidding, different from the TV series. And they give Sabrina her magic book. The phone starts ringing, but Sabrina refuses to answer it and tells her aunts what happened at the party. Hilda places a spell that erases everything that happened the day before. Sabrina picks up the phone to Marnie asking how she's feeling after she left the party early because she was sick. And Sabrina finally accepts that she's a witch. Alone in her room, Salem encourages her to use her magic, so she starts zapping on different outfits and styles, which was very reminiscent of the, like, this scene would become the,
opening credit little thing?
No, I'm trying to think, like, the Terrible Things one, where she's, like, just zapping outfit after outfit after outfit. Or, no, it's the, Through the Looking Glass, that one.
So many episodes ago.
So many episodes of outfits. It ends with her trying to turn her shoes into platforms, but then they won't stop growing. But eventually they do, because then Sabrina's at school taking a test in science class. Marnie is making weird groaning noises throughout it, so Sabrina places a spell on her to help her get the right answers. The test time is up, and Mr. Dingle takes Marnie's test to see the answers flying around on the paper before settling into the correct ones. And again, poor Mr. Dingle. That man is having a rough day, or rough week. Later in the library, Sabrina is writing spells down and tests out one on Seth to make him love her, but it doesn't work. Marnie is excited, though, because she has a date for the spring fling. Sabrina tells her aunts about the spell after school, and they tell her there are no love spells or potions because it was outlawed. Sabrina is disappointed, and we get a line that hints at the ants being hundreds of years old, also in this movie. The next day, for some reason, the science teacher is giving them a lecture about witch hunts.
Which, once again, also in this movie, pay your teachers more so they don't have to teach multiple subjects.
I think he just had his mental break, and he was like, you know what we're going to do today? Witch hunts. Because I can.
Maybe. He has some good facts, though, because he does mention that from 1558 to 1603, women wearing makeup to get a man to marry would often be accused of being witches. And during that time period, Queen Elizabeth I, during her reign, there was actually a surge in red lipstick popularity because Queen Elizabeth I was a fervent believer in magic, and that the use of red lipstick could ward off evil spirits, and popularized it during her reign, which her custom crimson hue was made from, oh god.
Cochineal.
Cochineal, thank you.
Mm-hmm. No, I know it because I'm allergic to it.
Oh, congrats. So no Queen Elizabeth red lipstick for you.
Yep.
Cochineal, gum arabic, egg whites, and fig milk. However, after her death, it sort of swapped, and people began seeing makeup as an unnatural alteration of God's creation and potentially a sign of a pact with the devil.
What would your lips smell like?
I mean, Queen Elizabeth's whole face had to have some funky sort of smell.
The powders and the wigs and the, yeah. But man, no, thank you. Katy is being a mean girl again and talking about spring fling. Sabrina casts a spell to give her a huge zit, and Katy freaks out. The ants are trying to teach Sabrina how to fly, but it's also a lesson about accepting yourself for who you are. Which I don't feel like Sabrina doesn't accept her witch half. And again, it's a shorter movie, so we don't have the time to get through this theme. But we've definitely had the theme of her trying to accept these different parts of herself in the TV series. And I didn't really feel like there was a moment where Sabrina's like, why do I have to be a witch? Why can't I be a normal human? So, like, I feel like she does accept herself.
She's been enjoying casting all these spells, went straight at it with the spell casting.
Yeah. So, like, good effort to make that point. Like, I think that's a good point that teenagers need to have made to them. But, like, I don't feel like that was something Sabrina was obviously, it was not shown that Sabrina was struggling with that. So Sabrina can't fly at first, but then she tries again after her aunts leave, and she manages to leap a pretty long distance. Salem is telling Sabrina about witch hunts and good and bad witches, but Sabrina doesn't need to worry because she's a good witch, even though she tried to cast a love spell on someone, and she gave Katy a giant zit. But okay. Sabrina has found a loophole to get Seth to ask her to the dance, but won't tell Salem. At the track meet the next day, she casts a spell on her sneakers to help her run fast, but also she runs really weird.
It's like she's Olympic speed walking.
Did you see her arms?
Yeah.
Like... Apologies to Melissa Joan Hart. That's how she really runs. It was just, it was not track winning arm movements. Harvey cheers for her from the stands, and it's not awkward at all. Seth also watches very closely. Sabrina's shoes make her speed up, and she easily wins. And then she does a series of backflips to celebrate. Seth and then Harvey congratulate her, but she can't stop running, so she runs to the locker room. Seth makes a snarky comment to Katy, and then Katy notices Sabrina's shoes moving in her bag in the locker room. And I definitely thought Katy was going to do something about it, and then we just never addressed that moment. Katy's friends invite Sabrina to come sit with her because Katy went home being a sore loser, but only Sabrina can go sit with them, leaving Marnie alone. We get some vapid conversation about plastic surgery, and they claim they are Sabrina's friends now.
Once again, several appearances of juice bottles and juice goblets.
Sabrina tells her aunts about the spell that night, but they are upset. If you use magic to win the love of a human who doesn't have pure love in his heart and he kisses you, you get turned into a cat for 90 years. They also say Salem didn't warn her because he wants Sabrina for himself. And then that line's never addressed again. And I was just like, what? So we've established, because they say like, oh, yep, Salem did that. And so he wants her to turn into a cat so they can be cats together. But Salem's definitely several decades old, maybe. That was a throwaway line. That line didn't need to be in there. They could have just said like, Salem, why didn't you tell her? And he's like, I didn't know what her plan was. She didn't tell me. It was a weird line. Don't know what the purpose of it was. We don't address it again.
Yeah, and gross.
If Seth actually loves her with a pure heart, she'll be okay. And Sabrina is sure she's fine, but the aunts aren't so sure. Sabrina meets Marnie at her house and apologizes for ditching her at lunch, even though Marnie was also very much like, no, you go eat with them. You should go eat with them. You go eat with them. And like Marnie's the one who leaves, even though Sabrina's still standing there. Both need to apologize. Then they start talking about Seth more and discussing a plan to get Seth to ask her to the dance. The plan involves a training montage for both Katy and Sabrina. Katy with a personal trainer and Sabrina with Marnie, and Sabrina runs weird some more.
In this montage, there are no outfit changes, so I'm gonna guess this is just as long and just as quick as Sabrina's training for Sweet and Sour Victory.
I think that is a fair guess.
She's very ready.
Harvey is painting hurdles for some reason.
And we actually know why.
Oh.
Because when Katy confronts him at the pool party, he said, oh, I'm thinking about actually becoming the hurdle painter for the track team. That's why I'm here.
Wait, he did say that?
Yeah, he says it. So it was nice to see sort of this actual follow-up.
Also, is that a job, painting the hurdles? Don't the hurdles come pre-painted?
I'm pretty sure they can. Manufactured.
You need to paint them between each track session?
I would hope not. That means a lot of people are biffing it and biffing it hard enough that they would require paint because of all the accidents.
Seth comes over and asks for a copy of the questions for his econ test. Again, Seth is a senior. We've established that. Harvey and Sabrina are sophomores, but Harvey just happens to be taking the same classes as Seth because either Seth is a really dumb senior or Harvey's a really smart sophomore.
Probably both.
Seth admits he's going to ask out whoever wins the all-city track meet because that's what teenage boys care about.
That tracks.
Oh, the day of the big meet is here. It's the most well-attended track meet I've ever seen. The aunts show up to watch with Zelda carrying opera glasses because apparently it's a really big track. The aunts talk about Harvey 2 feet away from him, and then Zelda reads his thoughts. He wants Sabrina to lose because he's in love with her, and literally did you need magic to figure that out? Sabrina takes out her sneakers and removes the spell from them. The race starts, and Katy wins the sprint. Salem shows up and tells the aunts that Sabrina isn't using magic. Again, no one notices the cat in the bleachers. Another montage of the track meet. Sabrina wins the jump and javelin throw.
You hear the announcer announcing Sabrina win, but he says multiple times Sabrina Sawyer instead of Sabrina Spellman.
No, yeah, her name's Sawyer in this.
Oh, okay.
One of the many changes. So it all comes down to the 800-meter run. Who will win the track meet and who will win
his heart?
Sabrina and Katy are right next to each other when Katy elbows Sabrina off the track. Sabrina places a spell back on her sneakers to catch back up with Katy and then wins the race. Seth immediately steps on the track to ask her to the spring fling, and the rest of the team puts Sabrina on their shoulders and parades her around. Harvey is bummed. The aunts are disappointed. Sabrina eats lunch with Harvey, and he starts to tell her something he's been thinking about the two of them, but stops. Sabrina is oblivious. He asks her to save a dance for him, and she promises. Sabrina is getting ready for the dance. Salem loves her dress, and while he's not a creepy puppet, the special effects to make him talk are somehow worse.
I don't know. I like most of them until he's like talking long sentences. But when it's short, the cat actor's pretty damn cute with that little CGI.
This scene with his talking was a little...
Yeah, and we've also maybe established he's an extra creeper, and now she's getting dressed for the dance.
He's overly complimentary of her dress and how pretty she is. Also, she's getting changed in front of the cat that we just established wants to... Okay. Seth comes to pick Sabrina up and honks from the street. Her aunts are upset by this, saying if he was a gentleman, he would come up and introduce himself. They are very worried, but this is a lesson she has to learn on her own, and they are very dressed up for a night of sitting outside on the porch, playing games.
All dressed up to meet Sabrina's gentleman caller, and then they didn't get to.
You don't wear evening gowns for that.
I don't know. Gone with the Wind you do, so.
Yep, the antebellum South you do. Seth and Sabrina arrive at the dance, and Seth almost immediately abandons her to go hang out with his friends.
But didn't they all arrive together? Like, some of his friends were in that car.
Some of them were, not all of them. Like, there were more at that table than there were in the car. So he doesn't care who he goes with, because he's like, I'm just going to choose whoever wins the race, which is how teenage boys make decisions, I guess. And then he's just like, cool, I showed up with you. Bye. Go entertain yourself. So he's not even going to be seen with her at the dance. Okay.
Teenagers.
Not even very well written teenagers. Poorly written teenagers. She awkwardly stands by herself before going over to him and tries to hint that she's thirsty. And he's like, yeah, me too. Hey, buds, are you also all thirsty? And then he sends her to go get drinks for him and all his friends. She talks with Harvey at the refreshment table, and Harvey's working the refreshment table. This boy loves to throw a party.
He does.
He came up with the theme for the spring fling. He decorated it. I have some thoughts about Harvey.
Well, if academics don't work out, go into party planning.
Great party planner. Anyway, Sabrina starts to realize that maybe Seth isn't so great, and everybody's like, duh. Meanwhile, Katy found a crowbar from somewhere and is using it to break into Sabrina's locker, and then finds her magic book, which is in there for some reason.
And Sabrina had to go through all these steps and go into the other magic realm to read the book, and now Katy as a mortal can just grab it and start reading it right away.
Why is it in her locker? Why isn't it at home?
We've established it can disappear magically, so even if you put it in your locker, shoo shoo hum.
She looks through it while Sabrina and Harvey are about to dance, but one of Katy's friends gets Sabrina, telling her that Katy needs to talk to her right away. Katy, and I'm just going to say this right now, Libby is such a better villain than Katy. I hate Katy so much.
1000%.
I am exhausted by Katy.
Libby has layers, like an onion.
Libby has layers. Libby is consistent. Like, I get where Libby's coming from. Katy is just obnoxious. I don't care about her at all. So anyway, Katy confronts Sabrina about being a witch. Sabrina tries to laugh it off, but Katy walks away to tell everyone. So Sabrina turns her into a poodle, which I guess is better than a pineapple.
Less likely to be killed and consumed as a poodle.
Sabrina returns to the dance with no guilt whatsoever. She's just like, well, that girl's a dog now and she's running off. Whatever, bye. Are we sure Sabrina's a good witch? This is not good witch behavior.
She's a teenage witch. This is teenage behavior.
I mean, we can call her like a morally gray witch. I'm fine with that. But I think calling her a good witch is a stretch. Seth grabs Sabrina to go to Lookout Point and, quote, get to know each other better. Did you have a makeout point in your high school?
No clue. Maybe.
Sabrina's hesitant because she promised Harvey a dance, but Seth is like, hey, we'll be back before the dance is over. So Seth's not planning on taking too long with this. Harvey hears from Seth's friends where they went, and then he's like, you know what I should do? I should go follow them to Lookout Point. Oh, Harvey.
This Harvey is something else.
Yep. Sabrina and Seth are sitting in the car. He's trying to put the moves on her, but she's not really getting it, even though it would be uncool to come back from the fling before dawn. What? First of all, that's prom that this kind of stuff is usually talked about, not the spring fling dance. Also, she's 16. Okay. She asks to go back to the dance. He tries to pressure her into a kiss, but she refuses. He tries again, and she gets out of the car. He tells her she can walk home and drives off, but she casts a spell that basically explodes his engine before the car starts driving in circles on its own. Sabrina comes across Harvey as she's walking, and she apologizes for how she was acting, and they agree to be friends. Which is like, oh, okay, cool. Like, we can be friends. And that lasts for all of 30 seconds because they start dancing, and she casts a spell for music that only the two of them can hear.
But even that spell she casts has the word friend in it. And
Mhm.
she's still, at this point, friend zoning. Then it magically changes.
This Harvey, I would not even friend zone. This Harvey, I would stay away from.
This Harvey gives slight incel
Oh,
vibes. Okay.
Yeah, this Harvey gives nice guy vibes.
Glad we're on the same page.
This Harvey is a nice, like a quote, nice guy.
No more Mr. Nice Guy.
Suddenly they're floating and they're like high up above the earth, and Harvey notices nothing because he's just so enthralled to have Sabrina in his arms. They come back down and Mr. Dingle sees them land. That poor man thinks he's lost his mind. Harvey doesn't remember how they got there, but Sabrina reminds him that he drove them back on the bike. They go back into the dance where there is still a poodle running around and for some reason being chased by another dog. Are there just a number of stray animals in Riverdale and that's why no one acknowledges or cares when random dogs or cats show up?
Maybe.
They need Bob Barker to visit their town and do a spay and neuter clinic. The poodle runs under a table and then the other dog is gone. I don't know where that dog went. And Sabrina turns Katy back into a human. Katy goes back crying to Seth, who is somehow also there. How did he get back to the dance? I don't know. She apologizes. He immediately takes her back. The two of them deserve each other. The ants are watching everything in a crystal ball as Sabrina and Harvey kiss out of nowhere because we're friends. Oh, I'm so glad to have you as a friend. Now we're kissing. Sabrina asks if she's changed, and Harvey says yes, she's even more beautiful.
And credits.
And credits. I'm glad they made the changes they did.
all for the better, I'd say.
I'm glad they had this movie to kind of work out some of those initial thoughts that maybe were not amazing. I think the end product we got with the series was much better. I will say those first like 2 or 3 episodes of the TV series that were like a little subdued and quieter kind of had the same tone as the movie, which was like a little more subdued as well. By the end of the season though, we're like more sitcom-y, which was nice. Yeah, I'm glad we got Libby. I'm glad we got a different Harvey. I'm glad Harvey got a personality makeover. Holly freaking Luya. I do think it'd be funny if Mr. Poole was a little bit more aware of some of the magic that had happened in the way that Mr. Dingle was.
That's that on top of the trauma. He's already seen a giant praying mantis.
I mean, I guess he has experience, but like he hasn't been really aware of the magic. But I do think it'd be funny if like we had like the flying answers on the test thing happen to him. Like maybe a couple of those little things throughout would have been funny. They were a lot looser with magic in this one that mortals could potentially see or experience than I think they are in the TV series.
The council's like brought up as this threat, but clearly not necessarily even much of a threat at all.
Yeah.
I do wish the rhyming had continued on one form of magic structure.
Yeah, because like sometimes they do have to use a spell and sometimes they can just point. And there's really no rhyme or reason as to when you have to do one or the other.
No rhyme. You're correct there.
That's true. All right. Stay tuned for our next episode. I think we have 2 more break episodes into season 2.
Yes, Clueless, and then our Lifetime crazy movie.
Oh yes, the Killing the Competition. We are also building back up our buffer. So I know we had to take a week off because life was insane. I'm alive. Hallelujah. Still not fully 100%. So thanks for sticking with us as we get through some things in our personal lives. And we'll be back next week with another episode. In the meantime, I mean, do you want to guess what Clueless is about, Skye, if Clueless is going to be our next episode? Do you know what Clueless is about?
I feel like I should know. It gets referenced so often, but teenage girls, that's about all I know. I'm assuming they're clueless. They do not have a clue. I could not tell you.
I will tell you it is based off of a Jane Austen novel.
Okay, interesting.
In the meantime, like, share, rate, subscribe this podcast. It helps us out, and we appreciate hearing nice things. You can email us at somethingwitchypod@gmail.com. Follow us on Instagram at somethingwitchypod and TikTok at something.witchy.pod. And until next time,
Stay magical.